Samuel Smith. So notice the church is organized April 6th at whose farm? Whitmer Farm in Fayette. Good, how are we doing? And then you'd say once they're back in Palmyra, the Smiths, Joseph will call his brother on April 30th, then of 1830, to be the first missionary. Now, missionaries back then, it's interesting, they didn't have the white shirts, tie, plaque, okay? But you'd say, how did you know you were to continue on your mission? One, you felt the Spirit of the Lord, and two, you didn't cuss. If you started cussing, everybody knew you didn't have the Spirit of the Lord, and it was time to come home. You know, would that work today? How long would everyone stay out? You know, in my case, I'm not sure, but okay. Samuel Smith, when he leaves on his mission, he does not have a companion. And what he has, he carries a kind of knapsack, we'd probably call him a backpack, over his back, and he has copies of the Book of Mormon. He is to sell for $3 a piece. A much more motivated salesman, however, the Book of Mormon, anybody name him, is going to be a well-to-do farmer who's about to lose it all. Martin Harris. You could buy a Book of Mormon from Martin Harris for $1.25 on which street in Palmyra? Main Street. Okay. But you'd say for Samuel Smith, he's now leaving town, and his job is to sell them for $3 a piece. Well, he heads to the next town. As he arrives in the next town, you know, it's the first town, he stops, he tries to get food, and the man who has kind of like, you know, like you'd say the hotel in town, he says, no, you can't stay here. He's frustrated, he sleeps out under a tree, and finally, he gives away 2 copies of the Book of Mormon. One of those copies gets into the hand of a man who, in some sense, Joseph's successor. Who's that man? Brigham Young. You know, so if you're going to be discouraged on your mission, he was supposed to sell those copies of the Book of Mormon. He can't sell them, so he merely gives away copies, and one of those copies, well, it's the very same town that Brigham Young is living in. And who else lives in the town? Heber C. Kimball. Who Heber C. Kimball then ultimately in the first presidency of the church with Brigham Young. Heber C. Kimball is a potter by trade. Notice he doesn't smoke pots, okay? He makes pots. Okay, so, but Samuel Smith, after 3 days, he returns to Palmyra and his mission is over. Now, try and imagine a 3-day mission. I think most of us could actually pull ourselves together to do that. You know, I think how many times I've done girls' camp, I could easily do a 3-day mission, right? Okay.
What town was that?
So he goes from Palmyra to a town called Minden, New York. And it's just your next neighboring town. Well, it's interesting. By the time that 3 weeks is up, Samuel Smith has served 3 missions. His second mission, he was accompanied by his mother, Lucy. And the reason that Lucy went is she wanted to tell the kind of hotel keeper off for not giving her son a place to stay. So have mothers changed a lot through the years? I don't think so. But as you look at Samuel Smith, before that first year was done, he had served 12 missions. Now, notice then, missionaries, did they look like our missionaries today? No. And you'd say, how long were your missions? Was it a specified time? No. So you'd say, for most of them, as you read the Doctrine and Covenants, typically it doesn't say the word mission. It tells them to go on a what? Journey. Good. It tells them, go on a journey. They would then journey to that area when they felt like their journey was done, or they started cussing, they didn't have the Spirit of the Lord, home they went. Well, okay, so our missionary program will then begin from that point, and suddenly missionary experiences eventually throughout the world. How is the missionary experience today?
Pretty
More organized. Okay, it's more organized. We're hearing it's more organized. We're hearing great. I'd love to hear from some of our returned missionaries' experiences.
Okay,
what was it like when you got your call to go on a mission?
I filed some papers and we shipped them off to Salt Lake, and then I got a letter in the mail. I opened it up and it said just how long and where I'm going to go and what language I was going to speak. So I was organized and just knew right what you're going to do, and told you how to get there and gave you directions and everything.
Okay, so organization, much better. Greg, how was it?
Same way.
Okay, what was your reaction when you got the mission call?
I was excited. I was going to I thought I was going to go to the foreign mission because everybody does, and then I got Oklahoma, and I was really excited. I thought it was going to be the best thing ever, so I was pretty pumped.
Okay, that's wonderful. Did you sing the song Oklahoma?
Yeah. My mom went and rented the movie the next day, and I got through like 10 minutes of it, and I was like, this is the weirdest show I've ever seen. I just turned it off.
That's
guy
pretty
dancing
fun.
around in colored shirts. And I don't know.
You go, I don't know, but it turned out wonderful. Okay, how was your experience?
It was the same. I mean, I got called to California. I thought I was going to go foreign, but it was good.
Okay, depending which part of California or Oklahoma, it may have appeared very foreign, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, your adventure. Well, everyone, for our class, we have now made it all the way through from John Lathrop to the church is organized. How are you going to do on the test the next hour?
Oh, great.
Tell us next week.
Yes, I'll be able to tell you on Wednesday if all goes well. Good. I'd like to answer any questions that you might have. Good.
Oh, I should say real quick, you know Brother Martinez? I had interesting stories about my mission call with him. I was here before my mission, right before I got my call, and we were in the temple going to do baptism for the dead. And we're in the locker room, we're changing, and all of a sudden he goes, Bobby, you're going to go on a mission? I was like, yeah, I'm going to fill out my paper as soon as I get home from this term. And then he looks down, and he looks up and he points at me. And he goes, you shall not go to a foreign-speaking mission. And then he looks away. I'm just like, what? And they're like, everybody in the locker room just like, can he do that? And then sure enough, I went to Oklahoma English speaking. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Okay, that is actually
I don't know
really
what
great.
that was all about, but it happened. And it worked.
Okay, I love that. Well, okay, so we all can remember Samuel Smith as our first missionary.
Yeah.
Okay, and always honored, despite the fact his first mission lasted how long? 3 days, almost long enough to cut that hair and move on out. Well, good. Other questions? The what? I don't know if we know the total number of books that he was carrying, but you know what's so interesting? Here's Brigham Young. He gets the book, so he's about to be this amazing convert, but it will take 2 years before other missionaries ever show up in the town again. And during those 2 years, he will spend the time reading the Book of Mormon. And what's so kind of interesting about Brigham, he only had 11 and a half days of schooling. So you can imagine, it's almost with some irony that Brigham Young University of Hawaii is named after our prophet with the least amount of time listening to someone like me. So you can imagine, is it easy for him to read the Book of Mormon? No, he's going to struggle over, Zerah, him, la, okay, he's going to struggle over the words. And finally, 2 years later, missionaries come to his town again. And they're looking for a place to stay, and whose door do they knock on first? Well, it's the home of Brigham Young. And while they're staying there, they say that they're missionaries. Tell me, do they know the name of the church yet? No, they say they're missionaries for the Church of Christ. Brigham Young goes and he says, I wish you were men that could tell me more about this book. Tell me, was he the golden contact? Okay. It was just perfect. He then had these missionaries 2 years later a race to the local pond. He's baptized on the water's edge. He's confirmed, he's ordained an elder. And he asked, well, what does that mean? They said, among other things, you can baptize others. By the next afternoon, he's baptized 100 people in his little town of Minden, New York, that he's been sharing this copy of the Book of Mormon. And so, you get the feeling, here's Samuel Smith. He thought, well, what kind of missionary am I? In other words, well, 3 days there, the guy won't feed me. Okay, I'm going home. Mom, where's Mom? And then the next time I'm taking Mom with me. Okay, Mom, good. Okay, all right. And, and so you'd say, how does he feel that he's doing? But in reality, that one copy of the Book of Mormon pretty much converts the town, and then Brigham Young lives to lead the church. And you'd say, well, how poor was Brigham Young when he finally meets Joseph? He walks into town, he doesn't own a pair of shoes. And you'd say, here he comes, and you'd say, well, what difference are you going to make? And the difference, phenomenal. You know, so, you know, the gospel just, you know, it was like a light turned on for him. Well.